Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 20 Something TV. My name is Brian, and I am here with Lionel and Macy. And tonight we will be talking about these three specific topics for today. And so let's get right to it. So the first thing we want to talk about is yes, I get it. We've been hearing about the presidential debate, but specifically we've been talking about any update on the presidential election and how we react from it, but more in depth about Trump's getting positive for COVID-19. So Lionel, let's start with you. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brian. It's great to be here with you guys. So basically, this all started just a few days ago when mere hours after a public appearance in which Trump stated that COVID-19 was under control and decreasing in America, he got his positive test result back, which was subsequently revealed to the public. Um, After which Trump was admitted to the Walter Reed Medical Center, where he stayed for several days and received steroid treatment, which is a type of medical treatment which, like, those aren't drugs for people who are just like kind of sick. Those are very, like, it's a very high level of treatment. Um, but during this time, Trump kind of defied expectations again by driving in his presidential SUV to wave at supporters who are gathered outside. So you've still got this like political theater going on during all of this. Um, and then yesterday on Monday, Trump made a dramatic return to the White House in which he flew into the front lawn and he climbed up onto the balcony uh, and took his mask off to salute at Air Force One and to, make this dramatic entrance in front of the press. So this has really been kind of seized as like a PR stunt of sorts by the president and has been a continuation of the type of political theater that has been highly characteristic of his presidential style and of his administration. Um, and also, some other key news has been that Vice President Pence has tested negative for coronavirus. This comes as he'll be debating Senator Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's running mate, tomorrow during the vice presidential debate. Um, so, what we're seeing as a whole is this has been another sign of instability for the Trump presidency and the Trump 2020 reelection campaign. So, I kind of want to turn over to you guys and ask you, like, how do you feel about the president's health and his ability to do his job, especially as he's trying to get reelected?
I believe that it's just like kind of like looking at the big picture. Like you can just see how these guidelines are so important during this pandemic and this hard time that we're having, that anyone can contract COVID-19, and especially with someone with um, existing medical problems in their bodies already. And I just believe that even if you are following these guidelines or not, it is very important so you can prevent from contracting this disease.
Not to mention that everyone in entire America, they look up to Trump because he's our president. He kind of oversees our country, and it's crazy how if Trump's saying oh, we don't need to wear masks, everyone else, they want to follow what Trump does. But now that looking at Trump getting positive for COVID-19, it's now what do we do? What do his followers and everyone else have to do right now with this whole thing right now? And it's we got to hear what he has to say, how they've recovered from it and everything. So it's honestly just a pretty crazy world that we're living, and just seeing our president getting this virus. And it's
No,
honestly,
yeah, no question about it. And one more thing I just want to ask you guys is, do you think that this is going to have a is this going to be a boost for Trump and his people, or is this going to have a negative effect on his bid for reelection? Because it's really a complicated question. There's even been discussions in liberal circles that the whole thing may have been like an elaborate PR stunt orchestrated to try and make Trump look like more of a victim, to try and elicit sympathy for him from the public and to stir up a bunch of press, as his campaign is struggling to keep up in the polls. So, me personally, I don't believe this was orchestrated. I think it's a bad look for him when he's been downplaying COVID this whole time and suddenly he has it. I I think he's been trying very desperately to maintain his strongman image during this troublesome time for him. Um, and you've seen the extensive political theater that's gone on with it. Um, However, I just the whole thing comes across as very sloppily kind of presented to the American people, and I don't think I don't think it's staged, but I do think it will ultimately have a more negative outcome for Trump than positive impact on his reelection chances.
I feel like it's kind of making Trump look bad a little bit because Trump is contriting. He's been like saying like, oh, COVID-19, like we shouldn't take this seriously, even though he did announce that we're in the middle of a pandemic like a while back, he still pretty much kind of ignored it, and so more people are getting sick, and like he didn't take too much action to it, and like it's just pretty crazy how like it's like kind of making it look bad for his campaign, which is making like Joe Biden and his campaign go up because like, I feel like it shows that like he cares more about this virus than Trump when like you know it's we don't know what to expect in these the coming weeks when Trump, even though Trump recovered, like if he recovered there or not, like we don't expect what's coming in the next few weeks, but let's just see how it goes while Trump still managed to recover from this virus. But anyways, thank you guys, thank you Lionel for that topic. But anyway, speaking of Trump, going on about topic Trump, it's been informed that Trump wants to ban TikTok. But speaking of TikTok, we've been getting informed that TikTok is doing dangerous trends that these kids and teenagers are doing, and it's thanks to TikTok for that. So Macy, let's go off with you with that one.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to start off by saying a lot of these kids and adults these days are very addicted to social media in general, probably the number one app being TikTok. And they care more about those 15, 30, even a minute, second of fame. And they don't like, they're not thinking of their own health as it's like first priority. And a lot of these stunts that are being like pulled on this app is causing dozens of deaths around the world. And I think it's very tragic. And I just want to see how you guys think about it. Like, what's your point on it, Brian?
To me, I kind of feel like these kids and teenagers, like they're just doing it for attention. But my question is for them is how come there are other safe challenges that these kids and teenagers can do when they're just pretty much hurting themselves from doing these stupid stunts and trends that are like, that medicine challenge, like that was just too risky. Like, why can't kids and teens do the dances? Like when a Super Bowl 20 came out, like they did the Shakira dance. And so like that was very fun. The other one that was going on the past summer was the Taylor Swift Love Story Challenge. And that was honestly the best one so far I've seen. And it's like, these are much better ways that are more entertaining than just hurting yourself, because that's how I can picture TikTok. TikTok is just like a 15-minute music thing. You just dance to it. So it's like, honestly, these are much safer challenges than doing those ones hurting yourselves.
Yeah, one thing I can definitely say is that regardless of how terrible all of this is, it's not something I'm remotely surprised by. We've seen over the past decade, especially, we've just seen trend after trend of um, basically young people like exploiting themselves or sometimes even outright hurting themselves online, in desperate attempts to get some kind of fame. So I think this is becoming a cultural problem where media is such an intense fixation, and especially the fame that can come with it, it's so obsessed on by like kids growing up today that they'll go to such extremes to try and attain said fame. um, but it's something where I don't think it's fair to blame TikTok definitely for this. It's something you've seen on Vine, on YouTube, on basically any widely used social media platform. There have been events like this. So I think it's something that we need to have a cultural conversation about and really address, you know, um, instead of pointing a finger of blame at a social media platform. And again, if TikTok is banned in the US, if it's taken away then there's going to be something else just like it that will spring up in its place. So it's not something anyone can just like get rid of.
All right. Thank you, Macy, for that. That's awesome news about TikTok. Now, the last one I want to go to is, yes, we mentioned about Trump in particular, but COVID-19. But the thing is, everyone's been waiting for it. Everyone's been waiting for this COVID-19, the cure and process. And recently, there's been a news article that talks about how sharks are like being used for the COVID-19 vaccine. They want to kill like about 50,000 sharks. And the reason for that, because sharks have they have this thing called squalene, and it helps boost result in the vaccine, preventing to help to protect and create strong immune systems. And some are concerned that squalene may not reach the top of the level of the vaccine, and like it also might create like some sort of extinction to start, and like it's pretty much damage like the whole wildlife in nature, because like so many animals besides sharks are getting extinct for it. And one thing for that, though, is that Trump pledged to everyone that there will be a COVID-19 vaccine by the end of 2020. And currently at this time, there are 7 companies that are on phase 3 of the COVID-19 vaccines. So by the time they're past all 3 phases of vaccine, it's going to be available ready for everyone. And usually it'll take like more than probably 4 years or more than that for a vaccine to get ready. Everyone is just desperate for it. So now, question for you guys. Do you guys think we're just damaging more of wildlife by just killing these sharks for this COVID-19 for this COVID-19 cure?
I believe if people just followed the guidelines in the first place, we wouldn't have to turn to wildlife and hurt these innocent animals just for our mistakes. I believe that if we just followed the guidelines in the first place, we wouldn't have to turn to this.
I agree with Macy, and I also think what we're seeing is another appalling episode in the just decades of history of sharks being really persecuted by all kinds of industries, fishing industries, pharmaceutical industries now. This is the kind of thing where if there were headlines that 500,000 dolphins were going to be slain in the name of coronavirus vaccine instead of sharks, I imagine there would be more public outcry about it. But because sharks have this pop culture image of like a horror movie monster, I think there's a lot less concern or outcry about it. A lot of sharks that were once abundant are either endangered or near threatened now due to being overfished, especially for their fins, or in the case of like a great white, those are harvested for their jaws, basically just as tourist commodities, which is the naked evil of capitalism at work. So what you're seeing with this, again, it's similar to how horseshoe crabs, which are living fossils that are near endangered, are harvested for their blood by big pharma companies. Like, we don't even know if, it's not like it's guaranteed that killing all these sharks would give us a COVID vaccine or one that even worked. So I don't think there's anywhere near the amount of information available to justify such an overzealous and environmentally harmful act as killing such a high amount of sharks. And even Trump's arbitrary quota of saying like, okay, we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. It actually calls to mind similar policies which were instituted by Stalin during the Soviet Union, when basically they were trying to force rapid development and set quotas on whaling. And what you saw was the Soviets basically eradicated local whale populations in the name of reaching their quotas. So I think the whole thing is very dystopian and not well thought out at all. No surprise for the Trump administration, but he certainly didn't make any of these plans with environmental experts in the room. And that goes beyond, just sitting around, the environment and singing Kumbaya. This isn't just, some hippie protest matter. If the environment, the ecosystems are destabilized by a mass reduction of shark populations, that you're going to see that have chain reactions throughout many aquatic ecosystems. So this is something that should concern everybody.
Mm. Those are excellent points you guys have brought up for today. And honestly, though, like if there was a vaccine coming by next year, like that will make everyone's life so happy. But we just don't know when. Right now, because we still keep protesting, like, oh, when will the vaccine get ready? It's like putting every scientist and every company out there so much stress. Like they're just in the rush of like processing and getting this vaccine, so that way everyone, so we can try to go back to this normal life. By the end of this year. Well, with that being said, thank you, Lionel and Macy, for having us for tonight. This is 20 something TV signing off. Have a good night, guys. Take care.